don't know, because on the one hand, I'm thinking like...
That's why we're so pissed off about it.
I was excited about meeting people who wanted to be radical.
What is wrong with him?
In this anticipatory anxiety about whatever might come next.
Oh my God, yes, so many opinions.
This is Mak and Lindsay from the future.
On what basis are you claiming any of this stuff?
And I'm hearing this voice in my head now that's like, oh my God, you should have been horrified.
I had some really emotional moments there.
If you don't want to be an idiot zombie.
I love it. Welcome to Inside, Outside, Upside Down, an insider outlook on the upside-down world of personal development, questioning what helps, what harms, and why these spaces are so compelling. I'm your host, Mak, and I'm a workshop facilitator and coach. My co-host is my ex-partner, Lindsay, also a facilitator and coach. On this podcast, we'll talk about different movements, books, and influencers within the industry, and examine the ways in which people turn to these outlets for advice, healing, and belonging, often finding community and support, but sometimes getting swept up in spaces that overpromise, dogmatize, or straight up cause harm.
Season 1 is this ex-couples retrospective on our time inside the upside-down world of Brad Blanton's Radical Honesty. Radical honesty is a practice and a philosophy of life that evolved into an enterprise and a community with its own culture. Throughout this season, we'll explore what was helpful and what was dangerous about Brad's radical honesty, how it has changed over the years, and how all of us can better take care of ourselves and each other in the gray area between community and cult. This season's episodes build on each other and are meant to be listened to in the order they're released. Okay, you ready? We're going to keep going. So the next section in this chapter about telling the truth in a couple is about telling the truth about sex. So we've already done some amount of talking about honesty about sex. And so he opens up this section talking about how amazed he is at how little most couples talk honestly with each other about sex, about each other's sexuality, about their histories, and about like their current feelings about their relationship sexually, and about like attractions and things that they have to other people. That it just is kind of the accepted norm that people in relationships don't know much about each other sexually, including like what the other person likes and doesn't like in their sex life with each other. You know, like there's not conversation about, is this working for you? Is this not working for you? What might work for you better? What might work for me better? Thanks for joining us. Today, we will be providing commentary on the portion of the book, Radical Honesty, that outlines how to be honest about sex in relationships. According to Brad, it is imperative to go into graphic detail about past sexual encounters, sex with your current partner, and attraction and sex outside of the relationship in a way that will leave no room for interpretation. Stay tuned. So I'm going to send you something to read.
There are 3 areas of conversation about sex: sexual history, sex with each other, and current sexual activities or interests other than the partner. It is important to speak at a descriptive level of conversation rather than an abstract level. Whether you are talking about the past or a recent involvement, be graphic about what happened. Don't just say, I went to bed with Martha. Say, Martha and I spent all of Friday night in bed. We made love 3 times. She gave me a blowjob. Jesus Christ.
Do you not want to be reading this out loud?
Kind of not. I feel icky reading this out loud a little bit. Whatever. I went down on her and she came. We giggled and drank wine and talked. We cuddled a lot and we had a great time. We really loved each other. After such a report, answer any questions your mate has about what went on and what you felt and what the other person said or did. Anything less than full disclosure is withholding of the kind that creates alienation. There is no such thing as none of your business in an intimate... Jesus fucking Christ. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Okay, finish that sentence and then tell us what you think about it.
None of your business isn't... Okay, he says, there is no such thing as none of your business in an intimate relationship. Fuck you, is my response to that.
Say more.
I don't know that I want to. It's just like, this is just a bunch of fucking horseshit. Okay, sure, that's one way to have a relationship, you know? But prescribing this for everybody on the planet is insane. It's fucking psychotic. What is wrong with him? I'm like exasperated right now.
Right. And we know that like he wanted to have people be in the world the way that he wanted to freely be. He thought his life would be better if this is the way that the people around him could interact with him and could allow him the freedom to do himself. So yeah, I mean, he's trying to shape the world.
Trying to create the world in his image. Like any good egomaniac. Yeah,
and I understand your exasperation.
Oh, I like that, exasperation.
Did I say exasperation? Sweet. Good mashup. So, fuck, I don't know, because on the one hand, I'm thinking like, if you are in a committed monogamous relationship, you intend to be together long term, and you did have an experience like this with Martha on Friday night, taking on being honest about that in some way, and, you know, maybe not in this detailed, graphic way of describing it.
I agree that this could be a beautiful way to have a relationship. You and I experimented with something like this, and it worked in some ways, and it didn't work in other ways sometimes. This is a way to be. Great.
Yeah.
But the way that he sets this up, the way that he describes it, the kind of bluntness with which, and the like zero contextualization with which he presents this is just so offensive to me.
And I'm just, it's so easy for me right now to just like go into the feeling of the person whose husband has just told me about their wonderful Friday evening with Martha, and just imagining that person's experience. If they are in a married, committed relationship and the partner comes in and says, this is what I did, this is how it was, this is how much I liked it, and there is no context built for that. There is no history of doing things in that way with each other. There is no clue that an affair is happening outside of the relationship. And somebody comes in and this is how they handle the conversation. Just like the utter devastation, like that's almost like heart attack inducing, you know?
How traumatic would that be?
Oh my God, just so much. Which again, they were having a certain sort of relationship where that would be traumatic. There are other people who are doing relationships in a way where it's like, he doesn't even say here, is this a monogamous relationship, an open relationship? Do we know? Whatever. It's just like, go dump this on your partner that you did this with Martha. That would land a certain way in a monogamous committed relationship. That would land in a slightly different way if there's an open relationship and there's already understanding that we see other people and we're going to tell each other about our experiences with those other partners that we see. Going into no detail about this, how he's written it here, I don't know if like when he wrote this, was he thinking people will take this with a grain of salt? They'll read this and they'll think like, oh, well, we don't communicate that way with each other, so I'm going to ease into this. Or does he think, no, for fucking everybody, go in there, dump this shit about fucking Martha and like deal with the consequences?
I think his default assumption about individuals is that we're fucking idiots. We're chicken shit. We don't know anything. We're destroying ourselves. We're destroying our lives. If you read the book, it doesn't, you might be able to select things here and there that point to the contrary. But the overall feeling that you walk away with is this is his worldview. He views humanity as fucking idiots, and he needs to save us all from ourselves.
Well, and in that case, if that really is the truth, which I don't know, you know, I hear what you're saying. It makes sense to me that that could be the truth. Then isn't this just sort of like negligent and abusive?
Yes.
Book? Like,
Yes.
is that what I'm supposed to be taking from this conversation right now?
That's what I want you to take from this conversation.
Yeah.
This is horrible.
So, because
And I want to add that I'm not just basing that off of this book. I'm basing it also on more recent writings of his from a novel that I don't think that will ever come out.
Yeah.
That I was only able to read the first 4 chapters of. I just couldn't stomach the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because the entire thing that I walked away from was just that very thing. You're all a bunch of fucking chicken shit idiots. I could save you, but you won't listen to me, so the world is doomed.
Yeah.
And he took 4 chapters to reiterate that in 100 different ways.
Yeah. He shared that book with me as well, and I couldn't even get myself to begin because I just anticipated what you're describing. So how would you reframe this? If you're trying to talk to people about telling the truth about sex in your relationship, in a nutshell, how might you present this differently than Brad did, especially if there's something like an affair happening?
Man, I couldn't even begin to rework this. It would take a lot more than a paragraph. And it wouldn't be prescriptive at all, I don't think. It would just talk about these kinds of ideas and different possibilities. What does it look like? How intimate do I want to be?
Yeah, what I'm wanting is if a workshop participant brought up, I am having sex with someone outside of my monogamous relationship and I cannot live with it. And I need to get this off of my chest for my own sake and because I love this person and I'm going against what we've agreed to together. What I'm wanting to get across is we would never recommend go and do that the way that Brad is saying in the book.
Right. No.
Especially if you've never had a conversation like this before. They have no idea that you're having sex with someone else. Probably don't jump right into in the second sentence. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And she gave me the wildest sex of my life. There are other ways to lead into conversations like this, that
this is a great movie scene because it's so dramatic. And I think that that's oftentimes what's going on in Brad's brain.
Yeah.
Is that he's imagining some fucking movie that and when we used to do workshops with him, he would make us watch all of these movies. Yeah. Of these kinds of scenes where there would be so much tension building up and everybody until finally somebody just dropped a fucking bomb and told the truth after 2 hours of building up tension from lies and withholding.
Yeah.
Everything kind of falls apart. And then very quickly, but the shared humanity, we all love each other. Finally, everything's out on the table.
Yeah.
Right? That's such a beautiful, dramatic arc for a movie.
He also would often talk about how he wanted different participants in the workshops to be stand-up comedians.
Yeah, I forgot about what was that?
Well, there's something about how, I don't know, something in this like drama and entertainment vein, some way that he wants things to play out, like just for his own enjoyment or something.
Right.
That's kind of just like a byproduct of the work that he's doing with people, is this like, it can be this beautiful thing like in a movie, or it can be this great stand-up bit,
right.
where like, and so writing something like this, it's kind of like, isn't it beautiful and dramatic what can come from this? But it's also like, what a great fucking joke too,
Yeah.
to say like, she gave me a blowjob, I went down on her and she came. We giggled. It's like.
It's true. It's like he's wanting to write his own movie.
Which in a way I'm like, good for you. Look at you doing all this stuff, But when you're doing it in a way that's like, you need to do this too. And if you don't, you're a pussy. It's like, fuck. Okay, I kind of want us to just leave that at that. Anything else important you want to say to... Because that's all.
So things are just like hitting me in new ways. This is all fucking fascinating.
Okay, so you just outlined for us that Brad says there are these 3 areas of conversation about sex that there are to have. So he then goes on to expand on those 3 sections, which were sexual history, sex with each other, and sex with other people. So I'll just sum up a little bit. In the sexual history section, this is really just a few sentences. He suggests or says that what you need to do if you don't want to be an idiot zombie is start new relationships or just like where you're at in your current relationship. Just start out this new sexual conversation with your partner by talking about your sexual history in detail. what happened, how you felt physically and emotionally, like as much detail as you can remember about the things that you've done in past relationships sexually. Stuff about when you were young, like how you first heard about sex, when you first masturbated, how your parents talked about sex, like kind of just anything there is of significance like that you can remember from your early life and then from your sexual relationships as you grew older. He talks about your like techniques in sex with yourself and others, your fantasies, your methods of seduction. Speak at a descriptive level and go back through the experiences by reliving them as you tell them so more detail emerges. Like really feel into this stuff as you're describing it to the person, kind of for your own benefit and for them. So that's what he says about sexual history, the first of these 3 parts of sexual conversations. The next one is sex with each other, and he talks about demonstrating for them in action what it is that pleases you. Anything that you have the power to demonstrate for them, do it. So he's talking about masturbation in front of the other person because he says it is your responsibility to train your partner to please you. This is simply a matter of an adult human being taking good care of himself or herself. I think that all sounds great. Like if that's the kind of relationship you have, if you can safely do that, if it's a safe space and that is something that you both want to take on and it sounds good and fun for you and you want to learn something about each other and how you might support each other more in getting the things that you want in your sex with each other, I think that can be totally awesome and like a really healthy and positive thing for some people to do. Sweet. So the emphasis that he places on the masturbating in front of each other thing is partly about learning that as much as you want to like support each other and having orgasms, it's great to relieve pressure in the relationship, to relieve pressure from each other and a sense of obligation for taking care of each other sexually. When people don't feel like they have to perform, they are free to perform. He just goes on to give other examples of like things that you can do with each other to learn more about what the other person likes. Again, lots of ways that this could be like really healthy and beneficial in plenty of relationships, and other ways that this just isn't something that's like accessible for some people for all kinds of various reasons. Anything you want to say about any of that?
Getting kind of tired of banging the caveat drum.
Okay. The final of the 3 areas of conversation about sex that he mentions is sex with other people. And so then again, he's just talking about telling your current partner if there's anything you're doing outside of the relationship, if you are having an affair outside of your monogamous relationship, to talk about all of that in the ways he already described, and to talk about fantasies you have about other people. So even if you're not having sex with anybody else, to talk about like the attractions that you have, the fantasies that you have, to do that, to be closer to each other, to know each other better, but also can be like a turn on for each other. It can be fun. It can be playful. He says, whether you are monogamous or polyamorous is not the most critical factor in having a successful couple, obviously. Whether or not you tell the truth is. Whatever your agreements about who or when you can fuck, tell the truth about who you do it with, who you want to do it with, and how it is when you do it with them or when you daydream about it. The more uncompromising you are about sharing as a stand, whether it shocks or hurts or offends your partner or not, the better chance you have for a powerful relationship. So that's the telling the truth about sex section. I think we said a lot leading up to this that already kind of responds to all of these things. So I feel like we're good there. The next section in this chapter is how relationships develop from intimacy to hatred. I didn't intend to read this, but it's kind of funny to me just knowing what we know. And it says, I work with single people who have been trying to find a mate for years and who want my coaching so they can get married. I end up going to a number of weddings every year and help conduct some of them. I often mention that I'm an expert because of having been married 5 times. The part I find funny is just like, I can't imagine going to Brad, like, I really want to get married. Can you coach me? We're getting to the end of the book, and this is the second to last section, and it has 3 points to it about how relationships develop from intimacy to hatred, and I'm going to send...
When you fall in love and get in that blissful state, you just love being. Your being and the being of the beloved and the being of all beings in the world. You are home in that rediscovered sense of unity and bliss. You have phenylethylamine.
Got it.
You have phenylethylamine and endorphins and other amines in your bloodstream and brain, and moments of unity and bliss in your memory, and life is just great. Too bad that once we are warmed and begin to believe that we belong, the feeling becomes a belief to be preserved and guarded and defended, so the feeling will never go away. This, of course, makes the feeling go away. Thus do we turn heaven into hell. We end up resenting the person with whom we used to be in love for changing. Usually it is us who has changed. When you start expecting the other person to live up to your expectations based on what you felt before, you're going to get disappointed and pissed off. If both people are in this place at about the same time, a nasty argument ensues. This hurt and anger get formulated into belief instead of gotten over. In a short while, you're trapped in the thought, how could that bitch/bastard be so wonderful before and now be so shitty to me? How can she/he be so cruel? Next, after a few of these arguments, the two parties alternate between feeling insecure and feeling angry. When one gets angry, the other gets scared he or she is about to be abandoned.
Any thoughts about any of that?
Yeah, what I like about that is this concept of the early stages of romance when we put somebody up on a pedestal. You know, we're kind of seeing things through rose-colored glasses. Eventually, that rose color fades and we see them for who they are. And then if we keep going, we start seeing them for worse that they are. And those shades become like, I don't know, tinted with black or something. Yeah, and we talked about relating to a being versus relating to an object.
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes the honeymoon phase of the romantic relationship is really an objectification of the other person. We're not able to or willing to see them as a human being. They become object. We can keep that up for a certain amount of time, and we want to keep it up as long as we can because we get all of those chemical goodies. But it's not sustainable. And so if we don't recognize that process, then there's the tendency from them to go from, like he says, from angel to demon once we knock them off that pedestal.
Yes. And so he goes on to talk about, he gives an example of a couple that he worked with and them going through this process. And he claims that folks in relationships can get through this stage after the honeymoon stage if they are honest with each other about these things. You know, if there's open, honest conversation around, here's how I saw you in the beginning, here's how I've pigeonholed you, here's how I now have started to categorize you. Let's keep talking so we can know more of what's true. And, you know, let's make a commitment to seeing each other newly all the time and all of these things. He does also go on to say that the example of these two people, it didn't work for them. He coached them through having these conversations and in their case.
Good. Well, that's great. That almost never happens in these kinds of books. They rarely mention the failures unless it's to support some massive transform or insight or something.
Yeah, of course. So he says, before he gets to the part that it says it doesn't work for this couple, so he has just described in the book this couple that he worked with, and he says, as you see, the condition by this time had become two minds relating to each other as its, coming out of the same mouths that used to be used by their beings for love. They are both right about each other when they say you changed, because of course both have changed. In just 6 weeks, in the case of that relationship, they have changed from beings out of their mind with love into minded beings. He talks about how like many of these wonderful beginnings don't work out, the people split up, and that he did sessions with these two people individually and together, and ultimately it didn't work out. So he's talking about the man in this couple when he was speaking with him individually and saying to the person something like, soap operas are full of people who are in love and start withholding from each other. The nostalgia for what used to be, combined with resentment and hope for renewal, produces what we call romantic love. Romantic love is highly overrated. Romantic love is not as strong as a new friendship based on telling the truth. Romantic love is still fun, though not as romantic, without the tragic overtones of soap opera that come from withholding and being secretive. Romantic love recurs every now and then, rather than dying after the honeymoon is over, if people have open to each other relationships. Keep working on telling the truth about everything that goes on with each other, and you can work your way through to a powerful relationship. So then he talks about how it didn't work in this case for them. They parted having learned another increment of information about relationships, but not a sufficient one to allow them to make that work for each other. So go on. Do anything to say about that?
That's one of the few passages where I, feel in alignment with what
Yeah,
he's saying.
sweet. So yeah, I suppose it's important that you say that. So we've got some of that as well.
So rare, we better keep it in.
Okay, so you read the first point about how relationships develop from intimacy to hatred. The second thing that he points to is desperation being a terrible basis for union. And basically just says that, like, if the couple that he used as an example there had been desperate to be married and had gone forward with the relationship, even though it wasn't working for them, that's not a great thing to be building a relationship upon, is like just a desperation to be with someone or a desperation to be married. And that he thinks that plenty of relationships are based on that sort of thing, and it's going to suck. The third thing that he points to is loving the holy human prototype is more important than loving the personality. The holy human prototype is the person you see when you look into someone else's eyes without prejudgment. The holy human prototype is like a child. It is the noticer, it is the being, just like you, just across from you. Beings do a better job of loving each other than minds. So he's just throwing a bunch of points out here in this chapter, and he continues to do that for this next section, which is things that help couples have a powerful relationship.
Things that help couples have a powerful relationship. Complete any incomplete relationships with your parental family. This could really open up a whole can of worms here. Like, completing incomplete business is great when it can be done. And there are so many relationships, in my experience, it feels like probably the majority of relationships with parents. For whatever reason, it's just not possible even to confront them about all the stuff from the past. Either they're abusive, they're mentally not capable or willing to even have those conversations in a productive way.
Experiencing dementia or whatever the case might be.
There are so many. It's great if it can happen. And I would say it very seldom can happen in the way that Brad imagines that it can.
He's just putting it in such a simple way here. There's a lot that goes into completing with your parents. So if this is something you're considering doing because you do have access to your parents in this way, they are willing, great. Maybe you need some support in some way. Maybe you want to do that with a therapist. Maybe, there's a mediator that can step in and have a few conversations with you and those people in a way that can end up having a positive impact on how you go forward in romantic relationships in your life.
If I could just quickly give some parameters under which this might be a good idea, is like the number one is safety. And the second one is little steps. Don't just go from nothing to 90. Take a little step and then evaluate. Is that working? Okay, great. I'll go a little bit further. If it's not working, maybe try something else.
Right. And this isn't generally just like a one and done sort of conversation. You're not going to just go and like dump everything, like you said, at 90 miles per hour on your parents and walk away thinking like, great, I've done it. I've completed.
Right.
I'm going to be a great partner. It's like,
I healed my relationship with my mom in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Next, create together some common cause that you are both interested in and committed to accomplishing. I like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's great.
Great. Have a common project together. I like that one.
Which could be, he talks about like that could be having kids together. That could be a work project, whatever. I don't think we need to say more about that.
Next, stay involved with other people committed to telling the truth and to something bigger than their own comfort. All right.
Yeah, there can be good things about this. Also, I think about how for us, doing this in the context of radical honesty meant that we often didn't want to be...
Like, taking this too far might look like shunning all other people in your life that aren't in the same cult as you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And relying too much on people who are also only just doing this same practice to support you, and then kind of just reinforcing the things that are already not working. So look out for those sorts of things. What's the next point?
Make requests from your mate for what you want, but stay willing to take care of yourself. Good. If you want to please me, if you want to know what would make me happy, here is what I would really like for you to do. If you don't do that, it's okay. I'm a big girl or boy, and I will take care of it myself. You are not obligated to make or keep me happy by doing what I want. I'm responsible for my own happiness. If I get mad at you, I will handle it, and I'll get over it. If I get disappointed, I'll be responsible for my own disappointment. But if you are willing, this is what would please me. I think it's beautiful.
Sweet. And This is something that Brad would regularly say. And somehow there was also, though, like an overemphasis on you need to take care of yourself.
Indeed. One pitfall is that asking for what you want can become weaponized. Hey, I'm just asking. You do you. You take care of yourself. You're under no obligation. But
You
that mercy,
you should have known to take care of yourself and to say no to me. And obviously there are so many reasons that people don't feel safe saying no to things or aren't even in touch with here's what I actually want and here's how I feel about this, because there's too much stress, too much pressure in the relationship. They aren't resourced enough for other reasons. So many things can lead to giving a yes when a no is actually the thing.
Yeah. This could be a way of overpowering someone and disguising it as hey, it's just a vulnerable request.
And he says even more, reiterating what he already said, which is, wouldn't it be great to be in relationship with someone who can say to you, here's what I want, but you don't have to provide it for me. You're invited and requested, but not obligated to please me and make me happy, but no sweat if you don't want to. Yeah, great. And I think there is a way, for me at least, of like wanting to take on this cool girl, like whatever the man in my life is going to do, I can be cool with it. Like we've talked about in other episodes, sort of rejecting these softer, more vulnerable sides of ourselves. And like, I'm going to be tough and responsible for myself. And Mak might want to be doing, other, like in our relationship with each other, like just wanting to be able to be cool about the things that were happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that I should be responsible for myself.
And if there's some power dynamic, all of this goes right out the window. Hey, this is just what I want. Take it or leave it is never just a request or an offer if there's some power dynamic involved. And there's almost always a power dynamic involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the stuff gets really tricky.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about the story that you told in which this very same thing did happen.
Yeah.
The request was made, but it was fucked up and it was an abuse of power.
Yeah, that's referring back to the episode that we did with me sharing my history with Brad. All right. I think you've got 2 more bullet points.
Next is take any help you can get. I assume that he's just referring to don't be so prideful that you won't accept support from other people.
So again, you could say the same thing as you did for the bullet point about stay involved with other people committed to telling the truth, because really what he's pointing to is stay connected with groups like Radical Honesty Enterprises or Landmark Education, other people who are out offering this kind of work that can be supportive to you.
And so what is taking that too far?
Well, with Landmark Education, it's really easy to take that too far, where you are being upsold at every turn, to keep going with each next step in their process and spending a ton of money doing that. And then if you commit to it in the way that they want you to commit to it, you are spending so much of your life at the Landmark Education building, only connecting with those people because that's where all of your resources are going. And there's no life happening outside of that space.
Right.
And people can take radical honesty on in that way, as we've talked about in previous episodes too. If like the only people that I can be truly honest in myself with is these people at the radical honesty workshops. So I'm going to go to 20 8-day radical honesty workshops and those are my only people.
Yeah, it's also context dependent. Some people who have no way of really building support in their lives, they really need some kind of organized support structure, make new friends at that thing, like a 12-step, whatever, can be so great.
Totally.
And that can turn into you becoming a cult member. I think it can be great to lean on groups, especially in times of crisis, with the long-term goal of building a support network that's more robust and not dependent on the group.
Well said. So one final bullet point.
Next is have a long conversation sometime when you are not arguing about when you first got together and how your relationship has evolved over time. Hey, look at us go. What a great suggestion, Brad. I like that. Sounds lovely.
So this is the end of the chapter, and he sums up this chapter about telling the truth in a couple by saying, well, there you have it. We are back to the beginning of this book where we talked about that little being whose life came on in the womb. Back to that little being, we go and discover the source of love. full love, in orgasm, in sleeping together, in cuddling children, is a loss of identity at a time when you know who you are more completely than ever. When you are lost in love, your personality is included in something bigger than itself, or else it is obliterated. How lucky can one person get?
Yeah, nice. And did he not pick up on that he's talking about orgasming and cuddling children within a few words of each other?
Just having those words so close together brings an immediate ick in my body. And it also does bring up in me times when I've seen in person, these real moments of innocence in Brad, where he is just talking about how much he's gotten out of just being with children and how much he learns from them and how much they are just these pure, honest beings, just expressing themselves as they do. And so,
oh, Brad.
Sweet. So we want to wrap this up. So what are your main thoughts or main takeaway from this chapter about being honest in romantic relationships?
I had some really emotional moments there.
Indeed.
Jesus Christ. Man, I feel like a broken record. It's just like, yeah, there's some great ideas in there. And it's couched in a bunch of horseshit and a bunch of really bad advice sometimes and a bunch of just this naive utopic vision of the world. This Pollyannish view of like, just do this wild, wacky shit and everything's going to be fine.
Great. Perfect. And so, listeners, come on back to our next episode if you want to hear us talk even more about the remaining book and how great it is and how full of shit it is. And repeat ourselves a bunch about those things.
Well, and back up. What's your main takeaway from the conversation today?
I don't know that I have anything different to say than you.
Well, good. I want to hear you say it. I'm becoming self-conscious about how often I'm beating this drum.
The thoughts I'm left with are, there was a lot about taking on the things that he suggests in this chapter. We did a lot of those things in relationship with each other.
That's why we're so pissed off about it.
Well, there are ways that was magical, There were ways that we took on being in relationship to each other the way that he set out here that did feel revolutionary and just fucking exciting and fun. And like, look at us talking about all this shit that most people don't talk about. There just is something that feels really cool about that. And there is something that is really liberating about being able to share those parts of ourselves with another person in a way that for us, I think was like roughly safe. And so I know that there are other people in the world that could also take these things on and get some really great stuff out of it. And it really could lead to a lot of personal growth, a lot of growth in relationship and self-discovery and, all kinds of wonderful things. There is a lot of potential for that in doing what he asks people to do this book. I know. What he demands, what he asks, what he demands. I don't know. You decide for yourself. But as we said probably 10 times in this episode and others, it's not going to work for everybody. It's not going to be safe for everybody. It's not something I recommend for everybody. And I want people to take this on if they want to in ways that they really put some thought into and take their time with and introduce to their partner gently and compassionately. And trust needs to be here to do these things. This isn't necessarily going to work out very well for you if you are doing this before you've already developed trust over time with someone. And some of these things might be great for you to do, and some of them might be a terrible idea.
Great. I love it. I was just thinking that rather than thinking about all of his demands as a prescription for how to be, look at it as an extreme example that might indicate the landscape of possibilities for how you could be in the world. And for you to reflect on, is there anything in this that is inspiring for me that I actually want to try on? I don't have to. And what would that look like for me?
Yeah. And some of these things, it's like you could approach this whole chapter with your partner or partners like, maybe we're not going to do any of these things, but let's just talk about what comes up for us when we think about the possibility of doing these things with each other. And we can decide whatever we want to decide. And it might be that you want one thing and I want another. And there's a cool conversation to have, there are ways that you can approach a book like this and really get some great stuff out of it. That's not like just taking the prescription.
Amen, sister.
Come on back for our next episode that begins with us questioning why we were going through Brad's book at all and doubting our impulse to share it with you. Was it a mistake? Did it feel worth it in the end? Or maybe we're still not sure. Back soon.
Good job, Lindsay.
Good job, Mac.
We need to come up with some closing hook.
We probably will.
And we'll come up with something concise enough to put at the beginning of every episode that gives people an idea of who we are.
Yeah, and I think yours is going to include, I'm Mac. I'm a radical honesty facilitator and coach in my post-honesty phase of my life.
I love it.
Yeah, something like that.
Inside, Outside, Upside Down is created and produced by Mac and Lindsay. New episodes release on Wednesdays. Find us on Patreon, YouTube, Instagram, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Independent podcasts rely heavily on word-of-mouth recommendation. The most powerful way you can support us is by sharing this podcast with someone you know.